Good morning, Rodney.
Good morning. How are you, Gary?
Doing well. Before we get to the game this past weekend between Alabama and Southern Miss, and before we look ahead to Alabama and Ole Miss, big news yesterday. You had been hinting at this for a while. Bryce Young, 5-star quarterback out of Mater Dei in California, flipping his commitment from USC to Alabama. 5-star, top 5 prospect, and with the fact, and not a fact yet, but with the possibility of Tua leaving, and I think you and I both believe that will be the case, there's going to be a quarterback competition most likely at Alabama next season, and Bryce Young will more than likely step right in and be a part of that competition. Give us some insight on this guy as a quarterback prospect, what you like about him, and how big a pickup is this for Alabama in this 2020 class?
Well, first of all, I think it's a huge pickup. Obviously, when you land a player of that magnitude at that position, certainly that's something that to me, and we've talked about this on your show, it's a quarterback game now, no question about it. And you've got to have a big-time player, and I think he certainly has that kind of ability. You watch him on tape, and he's played against some of the best. Now, he's got a lot of really good players around him. There's a reason why his team is number 1 in the country. But they've played against some of the other top teams in the country. He doesn't seem affected by the competition at all. I mean, he's been very productive. But I think a few weeks ago, they played the number 2 team, St. Francis out of Baltimore, and he had 4 rushing touchdowns. Now, he's a guy that's listed as a dual-threat quarterback, but like Tua, he can run, and he may even be a little faster than Tua, but his forte is throwing the football. He's racked up a lot of yards, a lot of TD passes, very composed, Gary. And the thing about it is the game has changed so much in a lot of different ways. Just a few years ago, we'd probably never really have thought about a top quarterback prospect being maybe 5'11", 180 pounds. I mean, the game was a bigger quarterback, taller, all of those things. But the way it is now, a guy like that can prosper. We've seen it with Kyler Murray and Johnny Manziel and other players. So I think that he has those kind of tools.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's a special athlete. And looking ahead, of course, the focus for this season is to win it all. But next year, if Tua does go on to the NFL, which is my expectation, you would have Mac Jones, you would have Talia Tagovailoa, Paul Tyson, and now Bryce Young. It'd be a heck of a spirited quarterback competition, Rodney.
Yeah, it really would. A lot of highly recruited players in that group. And with Bryce coming in the spring, he'll be here to compete. So he really, in terms of the competition, he won't be behind when they start next spring. But obviously those other guys have some experience in the system a little bit, and it'll be real interesting. Certainly will be. Alabama be in good position to hopefully find one guy that can step forward and become the replacement for Tua.
Yeah, it looks like this has been in the works for a while in terms of Alabama recruiting him, and you can kind of see this coming, and he did it very publicly yesterday on social media. How confident are you that this is it for Bryce Young, that he's solid with Alabama? I mean, clearly he's going to continue to be recruited by USC and others. Do you feel like that this is a solid commitment and this kind of wraps it up for him, or do you think he'll continue to look around?
Yeah. Well, again, I think every situation is different, and you kind of have to know or have an idea about the kid, the family, how they've handled the situation, what they're looking for. And I think if you followed Bryce Young, which I've been following this one for a while, and felt since early June that what happened yesterday with his flip was a strong possibility. I think his family is a very strong, solid family. They know what they're looking for. They found those things at Alabama. And I think, Gary, that anything can happen, as we know. But if you're asking me today, I would say chances are really good, really strong, that there's no wavering here. Now, again, could something change? Certainly could. But I think given what they want, what they're looking for, and how much effort they've put into investigating what Alabama has to offer, I think it's a solid commitment.
Sounds good. Rodney Orr with us from TiderInsider.com, Tider Insider TV for his regular Monday morning visit. Let's get to the game this past weekend, 49-7, Alabama over Southern Miss. I thought, Rodney, and I'm interested to see if you agree, that it was the most solid, just complete performance for Alabama so far this season. I just thought they were in, despite injuries on defense and Reichard going down, the kicker during the game, I just thought this was a really solid, workmanlike performance, and I felt like Alabama improved as a football team. What did you see?
Well, I did too. I think when you look at it, obviously, Southern Miss defensively had given up a ton of yards the week before to Troy, and I think Alabama, it just came in. I expected them to do offensively basically what they did, which was, again, put up huge numbers. Looking here, Gary, Alabama averaged nearly 9 yards a play, 514 yards of offense. But I thought the defense did a nice job because Southern Miss does have some playmakers. The quarterback had been very successful. They had piled up a lot of yards. They only had 226 total yards of offense, only averaged under 4 yards per play. So I thought the defense took a little bit of a step. Certainly great experience for those young players. Once again, those inside backers, thought they showed some promise, again, some progress. So I thought from that standpoint, it was a step in the right direction, and certainly I think every time these young players get that experience, it builds some confidence.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Ole Miss comes in here, and I said this earlier, and I wasn't trying to be cute. Alabama can only play its schedule. This is another bad football team. I mean, I just don't know any way to put it. They're not good, and they're in the SEC, but this appears to me to be another game where Alabama just has to really focus on the standard, playing to their standard, getting better, and continuing to improve to get ready for this stretch run in November, because I just don't see Ole Miss putting up a lot of opposition.
Well, yeah, it's going to be tough for them, and you're right. And I think once again, Alabama, its opponent, and I think they go into every game thinking this is themselves, and they want to play against their standard and improve, make progress. It's an opportunity to develop. Once again, some experience, and this is an SEC team, so they're going to have a lot of quality athletes, even though they may not be, one of the top SEC teams. They're going to have more athletes than some of these teams Alabama's played at this point. So, again, I just think you want to make that some development in all of these areas that we've talked about, whether it's the offensive line. We'll have Deontay Brown coming back. Will he get an opportunity to play? So that could be something to keep an eye on. I do think the offensive line and that development is key. I really was impressed with Najee Harris taking a step. Looked like he gained even more confidence, this time over 100 yards rushing. So he seems to be finding his rhythm as a runner and as a receiver. I think that's important to the overall offensive production. And then I think defensively, with these young linebackers, again, this is going to be a great experience for them going up against an SEC team.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Speaking of young players, this defense we know has been hit by injuries. It continued Saturday. Terrell Lewis didn't dress. Markel Benton didn't dress. DJ Dale went down during the game. But I'm seeing some stuff from Byron Young. And listen, let's be honest. 58, Barmore, Rodney, he flashes every time he gets in the game. I know he was suspended for the first half after the targeting foul. But you and I talked about this in the press box. Got to play these young defensive linemen. Have to build depth there, And Barmore is a guy in a limited amount of action, but he's active. He's physical. He makes plays. I think he's earned more playing time, and I'm not so sure that we shouldn't say the same thing about Stephon Wynn and others. Got to get these guys in and let them play, right?
Yeah, you do, and I think that Barmore has been very productive when he's gotten in the games. He had a couple of QB pressures at South Carolina, had 3 tackles, might have had the last 3 tackles of the game, Gary, and obviously to me, he looks to be so far the most disruptive player on the field in terms of the defensive lineman when he gets in the game. Now, I do understand this. He's gotten in late in different kinds of situations than what you face in the first and second quarter early in the game and all of that, maybe against some backup offensive linemen later. But he is a guy that I think brings that ability, the athleticism, the quickness, all of those things. He is a disruptive player, and I think we will see as we move along. We'll have to see more of Christian Barmore. You mentioned Stevan Wynn. I think that Fedarian Mathis is playing better. He's making progress. Hopefully, DJ Dale, the patella strain that he has in the knee area is minor, hopefully, and he'll be back real quickly because, Alabama just simply cannot afford any more of those issues along the defensive line. And then you've got Justin Aboibe, who's another true freshman who I know was extremely impressive until he had the foot injury in camp, and he's probably just now getting close to 100%. So hopefully he'll continue to improve as well. And Alabama certainly, as you said, Gary, needs as much depth as they can moving forward on the DL.
And Nick Saban expected to give us an update on the injury situation today at his weekly Monday noon press conference, so we'll look forward to that. Reichard, the kicker, a hip flexor. We both think he's got a ton of talent. The good news is that Bulovas came in and kicked off well, hit his extra points. So I don't expect to see the kicker get injured, but it's good, I guess, now to have Joseph Bulovas, who's been through the wars there in the SEC, to kind of come in and be able to replace Reichard.
Really is. He stepped in there and knocked him right through, and that's good. I think Joseph is had gained some confidence, I thought, last year. Actually did not have bad numbers on the field goals. He's capable, has a very strong leg, doesn't quite get the ball up as quickly and as high. He's more probably susceptible to having a kick block than Will Reichard, but to have a guy that can step in with that kind of experience, Gary, that's kind of unusual. But I do think this too, when you're talking about Reichard and losing him, the punting situation, Skylar DeLong, I'm not sure exactly how many he had. I guess he had averaged 37 yards. I'm looking at it right now. A couple of punts the other day, and he there's no question that we've seen Skylar DeLong at times, especially in A-Day or some of these spring scrimmages. He's displayed a strong leg, but he just hasn't been able to carry it to the field, and they're going to need that as you start to move forward. So hopefully Reichard can get healthy very quickly.
Yeah, and you're right on DeLong. They just got to keep working with him, but he's going to have to get the ball off quicker. It's a blocked punt waiting to happen. All right, TiderInsider.com, always open for business, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yes,
TiderInsider.com. It's only $48 a year, and you get instant access with your credit card, or there's an address there to send a check, Gary. And, they can also go on there and look at all the video, much of it provided by WVUA, whether it's Tider Insider TV, Nick Saban's press conferences, practice video, whatever it is, they can look at that on the front page for free. And then the forum, which it's constantly nonstop discussion, Alabama sports. Right now, clearly football, the hot topic.
Yeah, check it out at TiderInsider.com. Thanks, Rodney.
Thank you.